You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News of the open source community presented by Full Circle Magazine. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 421, covering week 27, June 30th to July 6th, 2025. The Crypt Setup 2.8 utility has been published. It is designed to configure encryption of disk partitions in Linux using the Decrypt module. It supports DM-Crypt, LUX, LUX2, BitLK, Loop AES, and TrueCrypt/VeraCrypt partitions. The set also includes the Verity Setup and Integrity Setup utilities for configuring data integrity control based on the DM Verity and DM Integrity modules. Ubuntu has decided to switch by default to the Intel-Compute-Runtime package, compiled with the neo_disable_mitigations flag, which disables protection against Spectre attacks. According to Ubuntu developers, the presence of this protection leads to a decrease in the package's performance by about 20%. Security engineers at Intel and Canonical have discussed the need for Spectre mitigation at the compute runtime level, as the required mitigation is already present at the kernel level. The Spectre mitigation present in the compute runtime is of interest mainly to those running kernels without proper mitigation, and the benefit does not outweigh the performance penalty. Additionally, Intel's release of the Intel Graphics Compute Runtime are built with the neo_disable_mitigations flag set by default, which disables the mitigation. Pidgin 2.92, the third experimental release leading to version 3.0, is presented. The builds are prepared in Flatpak format. The most notable improvement in the new version is the addition of the Appearance, Privacy, and Development sections to the configurator. The Appearance section offers an option to display message formats. The Privacy section allows you to disable sending data for indicating text input, and the Development section provides the ability to activate the developer mode, which simplifies debugging plugins and provides access to features that are still in development, such as support for the Bonjour and XMPP protocols. Valve has released the June update to the Steam Game Delivery Service client for Linux. The release includes the Proton package by default for launching games that do not have a native Linux build. Also, the Linux version has sped up the installation of updates, which in some cases took minutes and is now completed in a few seconds. General improvements include a reduction in Steam client startup time for players with a very large number of games not added via Steam. A system for tracking game performance has been implemented, displayed as an in-game overlay and showing detailed information about frame rate, CPU consumption, and GPU performance. In this release, all the features of the monitoring mode is available for Windows only, and for Linux it is already available, but with a minimum number of features. These features are promised to be included for Linux in one of the next updates. The number of Linux games available in the Steam catalog has been increased to 16,139. According to the Steam database service, Linux users launch 4,025 games through Steam. The Coreboot 25.06 project that develops a free alternative to proprietary firmware and BIOS has been released. The project code is distributed under the GPL v2 license. The new version includes 879 changes prepared with the participation of 128 developers. The GNOME release team has improved the inclusion of a new development viewer, Papers, into the core GNOME distribution. Starting with GNOME 49, Papers will replace events as the default document viewer. The changes have already been accepted into the GNOME repository. Ubuntu 25.04 already ships Papers instead of events. The Papers application is a fork of events created a year ago by one of the participants in the development of the Events-Next branch, with the aim of significantly modernizing the codebase. Significant differences also include a significant modernization of the design, increased performance, and the integration of tools for certifying documents with a digital signature. Papers is similar in functionality to Events and allows viewing, searching, and annotating documents in PDF, DJView, TIFF, and comic book archives. At the same time, Papers has cleaned up the API of the libpps document and the libpps view libraries, and has stopped supporting the DVI format and the Windows platform. Many internal events widgets have been replaced with standard GTK widgets. A separate panel with tools for adding annotations has been removed, and they recommend you use the context menu or hotkeys instead. Perl 5.42 has been released. In preparing the new release, about 280,000 lines of code were changed. The changes affect 1,500 files, and 64 developers took part in the development. In about a month, the first corrective release, Perl 5.42.1, is planned to be released, which will fix the most significant bugs discovered during the implementation of Perl 5.42.0. Support for the 5.38 branch has ended, and updates for it may be released in the future only if critical security issues are discovered. The development of the experimental 5.43 branch has begun. Bradley M. Kuhn and Richard Fontana have announced the resumption of work on the Copyleft Next license. Development of the new license began in 2012 under the name GPL.Next, but the project has not been developed since 2016. The goal of the project is to develop a new generation copyleft license that will replace the GPL v3 license and take into account modern realities and the needs of corporations developing free projects. It is noted that the GPL v3 license is 18 years old, and during this time the community has felt the need to reconsider the use of hard copyleft. One of the fundamental differences from existing copyleft licenses was the copyleft sunset clause, which cancels the conditions for copyleft compliance 15 years after the first publication of a work under the Copyleft-Next license. In particular, after 15 years, the license becomes permissive, since clauses 3 to 5 cease to be effective with requirements for distributing derivative products under the Copyleft-Next license, prohibiting the imposition of additional restrictions and mandatory availability of the source code when distributing binary assemblies. Angie 1.10.0, a high-performance HTTP and multi-protocol proxy server, has been released. It was forked from Nginx by a group of former project developers who left the F5 network. The Angie source code is available under the BSD license. The development is supported by the company WebServer, having received investments of $1 million. Among the co-owners of the company are Valentin Bartanev, Ivan Polyanov, Oleg Mamontov, and Ruslan Ermolov. Nate Graham has published another KDE development report. The report mentions the KDE project's development of a new on-screen keyboard called Plasma-Keyboard, which is being developed to replace the Mali virtual keyboard currently used on mobile devices and touchscreen systems. Plasma-Keyboard is based on the code of the Qt virtual keyboard included in Qt, expanded with features for integration with Plasma Desktop and solving some usability issues. In the recent changes, the implementation of its own keyboard design style named Breeze, and the use of a new scaling algorithm which improved the display of the keyboard on narrow screens are noted. Canonical has released version 1.16 of the Multipass Toolkit, designed to simplify the installation of various versions of Ubuntu in virtual machines running on Linux, Windows, and macOS virtualization systems. The release is notable for the complete open-source nature of the project's code base. The repository includes code for components for Windows and macOS, which had not previously been publicly distributed. The project code is written in C++ and is distributed on the GPL v3 license. A snap package has been prepared for quick installation of Multipass in Ubuntu. Multipass allows the developer to launch the desired version of Ubuntu in a virtual machine with one command without additional settings, for example, for experiments or testing their application. The following distributions are supported: Arch Linux, CentOS, Debian, Elementary OS, Fedora, KDE Neon, Kubuntu, Manjaro, Pop! OS, OpenSUSE, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ubuntu, and Raspberry Pi OS. The toolkit automatically extracts the required operating system image and keeps it up to date. Cloud-init can be used for configuration. You can both mount disk partitions in a virtual environment and transfer individual files between the host system and the virtual machine. Full integration of the installed virtual machine with the main desktop is supported. Application icons, a system menu, and notifications are added. Igor Pavlov announced a new version of the 7-zip archiver, version 25.00. The project develops its own 7Z archive format based on the LZMA and LZMA2 compression algorithms. Additionally, it supports packing and unpacking archives in XZ, BZIP2, gzip, tar, zip, and WIM formats, as well as unpacking more than 30 archive formats, packages, virtual machine images, and file systems. For zip and gzip formats, a 2 to 10% higher compression level is provided compared to PKZip and WinZip. The project code is written in C++ and is distributed under the LGPL license. Ready-made builds for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, i686, x86-64, ARM, and ARM64 are available for download. The GNU Bash 5.3 command interpreter, used by default in most Linux distributions, has been published. At the same time, the readline 8.3 library used in Bash for command line editing has been released. Key improvements include new command substitution forms are implemented, allowing you to intercept the command output without forking a separate child process and without using unnamed pipe. The result of command execution are given as the result of substitution or written to the reply variable. The release of the lightweight raster graphics editor Brushy 2.0.0 is available. The editor supports stickers, frames, and effects, saving in different formats, using your own palettes and navigating through the gallery of drawings. The project code is written in Python using the custom TKEnter graphical toolkit and is distributed under the GNU GPL v3 license. Ready-made builds are formed for Windows and Linux. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.